Welcome to ArchGhost, the show focused on creating high-caliber, adaptable, and prosthetically driven full arch surgeons. The surgical techniques described and depicted in this podcast are provided by ArchGhost LLC solely for informational and educational purposes and are intended exclusively for properly trained, licensed, and clinically competent healthcare practitioners acting within the scope of their professional credentials. As a licensed healthcare practitioner, you alone assume full responsibility for all clinical decisions, actions, and outcomes as part of your patient care. Please see our full legal disclaimer at archghost.com/disclaimer. So in today's episode, I really wanted to give you as the listeners an introduction to what ArchGhost is. Most of you are probably familiar with my previous website, aoxsurgery.com, and we've now transitioned that to archghost.com. This was a conscious decision and one that I want to go over with you and review. For those that are new, who I am, but also, what is ArchGhost? What is the goal of the ArchGhost brand and the podcast, and specifically what to expect as a visitor, both to the website and to the podcast. So first of all, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Krieger. I'm an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. I'm based in Austin, Texas. I have been involved in a dedicated full arch practice for the past 7 years. This is really all that I've done is full arch surgery for that time. I typically cut anywhere from 30 to 50 arches a month. That obviously varies, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes more. But this is really all that I'm doing day in, day out. And that's where a lot of this content, really all of this content comes from, is this is, what I do every single day. And that's where the inspiration, the topics, the teaching all stems from that. So again, if some of you are new to me or to the website, I want to reiterate that, this is not something that I do once a month or once a week. This is it. This is all I've done for years. And I really enjoy talking about it. I really enjoy teaching it. Teaching this has really become a passion for me, and getting to share these concepts, these topics, these techniques with other providers who are dedicated to wanting to learn, to wanting to be better. It's been a blast, and I'm just looking forward to getting the opportunity to do more of that. So thank you to all of you out there that have followed the website and been a part of it. So what is ArchGhost? ArchGhost is the brand that has been created that is an educational platform that helps full arch surgeons perform high quality, adaptable, efficient, prosthetically driven full arch surgery. Really, as a part of that, you're receiving unparalleled surgical training, clinical confidence, and experienced insight from me. And that is the goal of ArchGhost. It is a website. It is a blog, it is a newsletter, it is a podcast geared around creating the highest caliber full arch surgeons. The new website and the new brand will encompass hands-on courses as well. Again, there are free blogs that are posted every week on the website. There's a free newsletter that goes out every week, and there will be a free podcast that will be published once to twice per week. Now, why the name ArchGhost? A lot of people are probably going to wonder, why did you switch from AOX surgery? The biggest reason is that I thought AOX surgery, it was a good procedure-based name, and it's a nice domain, but ultimately I wanted something that encompassed the direction that I wanted to take the brand. ArchGhost was something that was more reflective of who I wanted to be as a surgeon, and also those that I looked up to as surgeons. And the name really came about. I was actually at a conference speaking with a colleague and mentor of mine. I really have three mentors within the oral and maxillofacial surgery, and specifically the full arch surgery space. And I was sitting there talking to this surgeon who is likely the second most experienced full arch surgeon in the world, with around 6,500 arches, as of this podcast. And I got to thinking, we were talking about a number of clinical things, techniques, just kind of catching up. And I realized, we had the discussion that with a lot of experience, it becomes harder and harder to find mentors, because there become fewer and fewer people who have done more than you. And it's a little bit harder to learn. And I thought to myself, when I think of the three surgeons that are really my full arch mentors, one does not have as much full arch experience as I have, but he has so much more experience in so many other areas of oral and maxillofacial surgery, and really, just wisdom with surgery, and wisdom really with how he views life. And that's Jeff Moxley, a surgeon out in Las Vegas, and I really value his opinion. He's somebody that I speak frequently to about just questions, cases, and life. And so, I thought of him. I thought how fortunate I am to have this person I was speaking with at the conference. His name is Nate Baxter. Again, he's done approaching 7,000 arches. By all counts that I'm familiar with, that would be the second most experienced surgeon in the world. And getting to pick his brain and talk to him has really impacted me as a surgeon, and really pushed me forward. He was actually the first surgeon that I really spent time with and learned from way back before I even started doing consistent full arch surgery, and that's shaped how I operate to this day. The other surgeon is Cesar Butura out in Phoenix, Arizona. And again, by my count, probably the single most experienced full arch surgeon in the world at just over 8,000 arches. And super humble person, and somebody that has been, helpful to me, not only from a question standpoint, but just somebody that I've always looked up to. And when I thought about these things during this discussion, it hit me that, the reality is probably 95% of the listeners here, or people that visit my website, or people on social media, probably never heard those names. I'll bet you that most of you have no idea who those people are. And yet, some of the most impactful surgeons in my career, and arguably two of them, probably the number 1 and 2 most experienced full arch surgeons in the world. But when you think about it, they're ghosts. They're arch ghosts. They aren't worried about what people think, about how many likes they have on a post. They aren't playing that game. They're just worried about cutting arches and being the best surgeon possible. And I really feel that is what has driven me and gotten me to this point. Is I have always focused first and foremost on mastering this surgery and being the best that I can be, constantly learning. I'm still learning. I'm still getting better. But being less concerned about likes or a social media following. And I know that's a little bit ironic, being that we're kind of starting this brand and pushing this out there. But what I wanted a reminder of with this brand was that it is to be driven by becoming the best at this procedure. It's not about how many followers you have. It's about how you operate, whether or not somebody's looking. And it's the same for me teaching. It's not about getting a pat on the back for teaching somebody. It's about how effectively have I transferred knowledge and made them a better surgeon. And that is what is the driving force of Arch Ghost. It is being a ghost, not being concerned with all the noise that's currently out there in the full arch world. So that was the idea behind the brand and the name. And I just loved what it symbolized and where I wanted to go as a surgeon and as an educator. And I really, thank those surgeons for their just expertise, wisdom, motivation that they've given me over the years. What is the goal of the ArchGhost podcast specifically? You're listening to the podcast here. Really with this, what to expect from the podcast is teaching high caliber full arch surgery. We're going to go over clinical techniques. We're also going to talk about some theory, just stuff within full arch surgery that is a discussion. Maybe it's not specifically a clinical technique, but a theory of how things should be managed or shouldn't be managed. Things as, vast as surgeon burnout or just topics that warrant a discussion, but maybe aren't a clinical technique. But we're absolutely going to talk also about clinical techniques as well. The key to this podcast and what is a little bit different than what you may be used to is I am going to try to keep these podcasts shorter, maybe around the 10-minute mark, sometimes even shorter. And the goal there is that this can be an easily digestible form of information that you can listen to on your way to the office or, maybe at the gym or whatever. But, as a surgeon, I know that there are podcasts I like, but I don't have, 2 hours to sit down and listen to a podcast. And I would imagine that you don't either. And so my goal is to get you easily digestible content in a reasonable amount of time, sometimes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay. Really, the other aspect of that is when I thought about how to do this podcast, I do have a few people that I want to bring on and talk to. But most of this podcast is going to be me. And it's not because I like to listen to myself, but I'm consistently asked a lot of questions by readers, by surgeons that I work with, by just other colleagues. And we just have had so many discussions, usually on the phone about these topics. And I keep telling myself, man, that would be a great discussion for others to hear. And so I really wanted to be able to just let other people more easily get inside my head, my brain, my thought process. Again, if it's just 10 or 15 minutes on the way to work, you can understand how I view a scenario, a case, a technique, and maybe that's something that you can use in the office that day. So really just kind of having that glimpse into my mind and into what I'm thinking. Really, I think that's, as far as the ArchGhost brand, the podcast, that's what I wanted to relay to you guys. I'm excited to have you listening. Keep in mind that this podcast will be featured on the usual podcast forums like Spotify and Apple, but it will also be visible via YouTube links for the video portion on the ArchGhost website as well. So I'm excited. I hope you are too. I think that's the pod. As always, remember, operate in the shadows, adapt relentlessly, and load them all.